Hi, I'm Phil and you're watching The Joy of Electronics. In this video, we're going to prepare an enclosure for this orange squeezer guitar effect pedal. And for this enclosure, we're going to etch it with lye. And in order to prepare the enclosure for the resist transfer, we're going to want to polish it up. Most enclosures, when they come, unless you're paying specifically for a polished enclosure, you're going to get kind of a dull mottled finish on the enclosure, and that doesn't take the transfer very well. We need the transfer for this whole process to work. So you can polish these with some sandpaper. Anywhere from 400 grit to 800 grit is fine, or you can use steel wool is another option. I've got some here. Each one of these is going to take a certain amount of time depending on which one you choose. Or you can even use Brillo pads, depending on how much elbow grease you want to put in and how much you have around. So I'll start to show you what it's like with some sandpaper quickly. This process doesn't take very long. Aluminum's quite soft, so it polishes up really quickly. And we're only going to do a transfer on the top, so theoretically you only need to polish the top. You can see there already I've taken off most of the defects. So I'll finish polishing this up and then I'll come back to the video. Okay, I've got these polished up, nice and shiny. I mean, they're not perfect, but it's going to make a better transfer than it would have previously. So now what we're going to do is, I've got my artwork here. This is printed onto just normal paper for a test, and I've inverted it so everything that's in white is actually going to be etched in, and everything that's in black will be masked out and protected from the etching fluid. So now I've gone and I've printed this out on transfer paper, which looks like this blue stuff. I actually printed two and I've cut one out. So I'm just realizing now that I had to reverse it. Not only does it have to be inverted, but it has to be flipped or it's going to come out backwards. So I'll have to reprint these on another piece of transfer, or this one upside down maybe, or reversed, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, I've gone and printed these out reversed horizontally. So now I'm going to cut one out and we'll tape it to one of the enclosures, and we'll get the iron and we'll see if we can transfer it. So when doing this, you want to make sure the enclosure is clean, you want to make sure your transfer is clean, you want to get some tape of some sort, because we're going to tape this to the enclosure just slightly so that it doesn't shift. And you're also going to want to have something under the enclosure, because the aluminum gets very hot when you're doing this type of transfer with an iron. You certainly don't want to touch it, and you don't want it touching anything below it that could be damaged by heat. I've done that. I've put there's a pedal shaped mark in my floor here when I tried to do it on these tiles previously. So there's our transfer. Move one of these aside. Here's our block of wood we're going to use. Let me see how we're doing here. It's pretty good. Pretty good. I'll put a link to some templates for this in the video description. Just a little bit of painter's masking tape here. As little contact with the iron as possible. The tape. Okay, I'll go ahead and grab the iron and we'll see what we can do here. Okay, I've got the iron here, got it set on its highest. We're not going to use any steam, no liquids, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it on the pedal and we're going to hold it in place for about a minute, and then after that we're gonna start moving it around for a while. So here we got it in place. We'll give it a minute. And then we'll start kind of moving the iron just to distribute some of the heat for anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes. And depends on the transfer paper, it depends on the enclosure, depends on the printer. There's a lot of factors here, so you know, you got to experiment. Might take a couple petals that don't turn out too well before this starts working for you. Okay, I think that's about a minute, so I'm going to start gently moving the iron around to get the heat evenly distributed. And I'm going to go ahead and do this for another 5 minutes, but you don't have to watch that. Okay, so I've been moving this around for about 5 minutes, trying to get the tip, you know, putting some pressure along all aspects, all parts of the face there. And now we'll see what we got. So it's going to be hot, like I said, so you don't want to touch the enclosure. That was the wrong plug. I meant to unplug the iron there, so we'll plug that back in. I'll unplug the iron. Okay, now we'll see what we got here. If I can just peel off this tape, you can feel the heat coming off the enclosure. Definitely do not want to touch it. So that did not work out. You can see that a lot of the transfer did not transfer. So we're going to have to scrape all this off and try to transfer again and adjust our times. Okay, this is attempt number 2. Got some parchment paper here, 2 layers, and that's going to help help transfer kind of the uneven parts of the enclosure because you know the iron's going to press evenly, but there's still some defects in the enclosure, so we want to get the toner down into those spots. I also ditched the purpose paper for just a page out of a magazine that I printed on. So we'll see how this works out. Again, we don't want to touch the pedal because it's going to be super hot at this point. Let's see how we did. Something's under there, or something got warped. I think the wood's actually bent now. It's better, but I don't know what that circle is. That's kind of bizarre. Is that on the iron? Maybe that's the heating element of the iron. I don't know what that is. It's not in the pedal. So strike 2. I'll have to come up with a plan and come back when we've got something that works. It's a tricky process. Okay, so here we have the 3rd attempt. This one had the iron on for longer. This is back to the original purpose transfer paper. I've had the iron on for almost 10 minutes, and I'm going to stop at 10 minutes. And for the first maybe 5 minutes, I was really aggressively pushing on the enclosure and hitting it with the edge of the iron like this to make sure that things were pushed down, and then I'd leave it without any pressure for 2 or 3 minutes. And then I go back to kind of digging in with the edge and the tip, see if we can get in there, and it looks better. Looks like we might have a good transfer, but we'll see. And I'm judging that by the kind of dark spots that show kind of maybe something's happened, and the liquid has transferred through the transfer paper, or something, the heat's transferred. So, but the proof is in the pudding, so let's see how we did this time. And that's the best so far. I'm not sure what happened down here in Orange Squeezer, but I might end up going with this. It's still really hot. But I think that should do. Hopefully those places that are a bit lighter, that there is some toner there. I'll just tilt it a bit so you can see, maybe without the glare. So I think I'll go ahead and try this one, and I'll obviously have to retransfer the other one. So it looks like maybe time and pressure, lack thereof, was the problem on those first transfers. I think I'm going to go with this one. The Q is a little, probably not going to come through at the bottom there. But you know, these pedals aren't for sale, so I think this will do. Okay, here we are again. Got the iron. This time we're going for 20 minutes on the other enclosure. I haven't redone the first one again. I'm waiting to see how this one turns out with 20 minutes. I haven't been doing as much pressure. I've more been leaving it, but then every once in a while I'll go over it again to see what I can do with the pressure. So that's going to be 20 minutes. Let me just unplug the iron, and we'll see what we got. If this one's substantially better, I'll redo the first one, but let's see. That does look like the best so far. I can't touch it. I've got some paper remnants coming off too. I'm not sure how that's going to affect anything. Whoa. Yeah, that's super hot, so I can't really let it slide off and hit something. That's pretty good. This one's cool. So this was 10 minutes, this was 20 minutes, and the 20-minute one seems to have gotten better coverage, and most of that time was just leaving it. Hopefully these little parts where the paper transferred on too, hopefully that's not gonna resist the etch. So I don't know. This one looks pretty good. I might just go with it. Although I did print another transfer, so actually maybe I will sand this off and redo this one too to get it more like this one. Although looks like we lost a bit of the N there. That's maybe too thin to transfer, but that's all right. The orange turned out good. Orange Squeezer turned out pretty good. This Q kind of bothers me, but you know what? Maybe I will just go with this. It's pretty good, and I don't want to end up with worse and have to live with that. So I think we'll move on to, well, I don't know. I'm going to think about it. Maybe we'll move on to etching. Maybe I'll redo this one. But there you go. If first transfer doesn't work, just go for longer. Okay, so I decided to redo the first pedal one more time. This time I'm going in between, so it's been 15 minutes of the iron with a bunch of pressure, and we'll see how it turns out. I also changed the settings on my printer for this transfer to use the vellum setting, which should be more ink. And let's see how it turned out. Hard to tell. Doesn't look like as much transferred. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. It looks lighter. Here's the last one, and seems to be a lot more of the paper transferred. Now I guess the paper transfer means that the toner transferred underneath the paper where there was toner. I'll have some cleanup to do. I think I should scrape off these bits there. I guess we'll see. I'm not going to do it again. There's definitely some parts that, you know, didn't get as much toner up here, and I can see it on the transfer up here that didn't come off as well. But if I'm careful where I apply, might be some touch up to do. There's a big chunk here that after the E, yeah, there's just a big chunk that didn't transfer right down here, and it left a little notch beside the E. You can use clear nail polish or whatnot to touch up some of the spots that big chunks like that. And interesting, it seems like the same one happened over here, which is kind of odd. Something to do with that spot. But overall, these are looking pretty good. I think they're going to etch all right. But we'll just have to see. That'll be the next part of this video. We're going to pause it and get to that because it won't be today. Okay, got the enclosures taped off. You want to do this so that the etching fluid doesn't hit the sides too much or where you don't want it. I mean, it's going to bleed under the tape a little bit, but we can sand that off. So I'm going to be using sodium hydroxide, or lye, caustic soda, also known as NaOH. So to mix caustic soda, this is a powder. You can get different forms. You always want to add the caustic soda to water. Never add water to caustic soda because that creates a chemical reaction that generates a lot of heat. It expands and it's quite dangerous. So I suggest you do your research on using caustic soda for these purposes. And you want to wear some thick gloves. I'm going to be wearing 2 layers of these gloves. There are fumes involved, so you're going to want a respirator of some sort. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to mix up the lye and water in a plastic container, and we're going to have our enclosures in a plastic container, and we're going to use this little pipette to siphon some of the etching solution and distribute it onto the locations we want etched. Then we'll probably use this to maybe blow it off a bit, check. We'll use a paper towel to wipe it when I want to look to see how deep the etch has gone. And yeah, so we want to do this in a well-ventilated area, so I'm going to go out to my garage and I'll bring the camera along. I won't be able to talk much because I'll have the mask on, but you want eye protection, you know, gloves and long sleeves. You don't want any of this lye getting on your skin. If it does get on your skin, you want to rinse it very quickly with water to dilute it. Once you've rinsed it all away, you can use some vinegar to further neutralize it. You don't want to use vinegar right away because, again, it's going to create a chemical reaction. Although it is neutralizing, it's going to create even more heat as it neutralizes the acid, or sorry, the lye. I think that's about it. So let's get out there. Oh yeah, you want to have if you don't have a tap handy, you want to have a bucket of water, because when you know, we're happy with how deep the etch is, you want to rinse the enclosures in water, and I'm going to do that with a bucket of water, and that bucket of water will also be my my emergency water in case the lye spills or splatters or whatnot. So again, if you don't have a tap nearby, you want to have a good amount of water. I'm going to have a large bucket for that purpose. Okay, here I'm set up. What I'm going to do is fill this muffin cup with 40 grams of the lye solution. I mean, it's probably not the best because it's if there's any wind, Might blow it around. And then I'm gonna mix it into the water and we'll get going. I'm gonna go ahead and put my mask on. I apologize for any noises. I'm outside, so I can't control if any cars drive by or anything like that, but let's get to it. To be honest, I'm not seeing a lot happen here, so I'm going to put a little more lye powder in, stir it up, and see if we can get a stronger reaction. Also, the water's kind of bubbling around, which is annoying, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, we can see here that it's actually starting to adhere to some of the exposed parts and starting to etch with the bubbles and this haziness. So it looks like it's going to take a while though to get anywhere, and it's tricky to get the letters because the solution keeps sliding off, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, I'm going to keep this up and I'll get back to you when we've got some more results. Okay, so I add a little more powder and now I can see that the lye solution is actually sticking to the sections that are being etched, so that's a good sign. I wiped it with a paper towel and I can see that the etched sections are being etched, so we are getting some coverage. Just got to make sure things like this S and up here the range is getting the proper coverage. So now I've got kind of full coverage here. I'm just going to leave it for maybe 5 minutes and we'll wipe it and we'll see how deep the etch is. It seems to now things kind of want to stick together. Just a matter of working with the surface tension to get the bubble of solution over the etched areas. So we've got a bit of a system going here. I wipe them off every couple minutes when the solution gets hazy, and then I reapply it. So I've done that about 3 times. I think I'll do it maybe 2 more times, and then we'll call it quits. See, it's hard to tell, at least for me, how deep the etch is when I wipe it, because the mask starts to run, but we'll see. We'll see how it's starting to turn hazy again, so that's good. Sorry about the dogs. Okay, I think it's starting to eat through the resist or the mask here in this orange, so I haven't put much back on this orange. I'm just going to do one more pass on the letters, and then I think we'll wrap it up. All in all, it's been probably 15 minutes of applying and reapplying and wiping off and that sort of thing. Okay, I think we're going to call it. I haven't done this enough times to know at this point how deep the etch is, but it's looking pretty good. I'm afraid if I leave it too much longer, we're going to lose some of the clarity. So I'm going to go ahead and dump these in our bucket of water. Actually, I'll show you a bit closer first. I don't know how well you can see that. Not at all. Trying to better stay in the light. But we'll get a better look later. Okay, so I've rinsed them off thoroughly with water. That dilutes any remaining lye, and then I've taken some acetone to remove, acetone with a paper towel to remove the mask, and it's looking pretty good. You know, I'm still not sure exactly how deep the etch is. I don't know if it's going to be deep enough to, you know, my original idea was to spray paint these orange and then sand off the most of the orange, and the paint would remain in the etch. So I still might attempt that, but they look pretty cool as is, with just you know, kind of the rough etched parts really stand out against the polished back. You know, there are some I guess defects, kind of hard to see with the glare, but around here, you know, the fluid kind of etched a bit around the letters. I might be able to use some steel wool to buff that out. So I'm going to try some steel wool to see exactly how much I can buff out and maybe get a bit of an idea of how deep the etch is. So I'll give that a go. Okay, so now I've hit them with the sandpaper again and the steel wool to try and get off some of the defects. You know, the etch doesn't stand out as much now because kind of the etched parts are polished, but it's looking pretty good. I think the paint and sand will give me you know, a pretty good finished pedal here. Still a long way to go before it's professional, but yeah, practice makes perfect. So again, if you're going to use lye or any type of acid or etching fluid, be careful, read the safety instructions, make sure you have all your safety gear on and something to neutralize the process. I did make a mistake in that with lye you cannot use nail polish to resist. It'll eat through the nail polish, so that was a mistake I made. You cannot touch up your transfer with nail polish if you're going to use lye. So I think I'll end the video here, and the next video I'll pick up will be painting these and then sanding off the excess paint, and we'll see what they look like after that. So my name is Phil, this has been the Joy of Electronics, and we'll see you next time.